So can one understand one's own brain and the activities and the complexity of the brain without operating on animals, dead bodies and so on? Can one observe the very complex structure and nature of the brain in oneself rather than seek it externally, outside? Is that possible? I feel it is possible if one can watch very carefully, objectively, without any bias, the reactions, the biological responses, and the inward urges and temperaments and idiosyncrasies, the whole complexity of human existence. To approach this very, very complex problem, if one has a complex mind, then it's not possible to understand complexity. But if one can approach it very simply, I mean by simplicity without compulsion, without will, without a direction, motive, just to watch the whole operation of one's own activities and so on. And then I think it's possible to examine or to observe the activity of one's own brain without seeking it externally.
What do you mean by understand?
By observing. I don't mean understand. By watching very carefully the complexity of oneself. What's the operation of thought, how thought arises, what is the cause of the origin of thought, and the activities, both externally, technologically, the movement of thought, and the limitation of thought.
When you say that, is it possible to understand the brain, do you mean only thought and psychological reaction, or do you mean things like the fact that I can see the glass,
Yes.
perception? Do you mean perception as well?
Surely.
And the use of language?
Surely. Linguistic,
Yeah.
all
Everything.
that, the whole complexity of human endeavors, action and feelings, and all the imagination, the whole content of it.
And learning.
Watching.
And being able to learn something new. Being able to learn and work in a totally new situation.
Would you call it learning? What is there to learn? By just watching?
Well, that seems to me precisely where there seems to be a fundamental distinction between merely observing, or not merely observing, or completely observing.
Yes. Without the me.
Without the me.
Yeah.
And a notion of creating a way of understanding how that observation comes to be, which is traditionally what Western thinking has done, including science, creating what one can call a model, a process, a theory, a law, whatever. Now, would that endeavor be out in the approach you are proposing?
I don't quite understand out. What do you-
Would not be pursued, would be left behind. That the actually coming up with a theory or a model that would explain how does it come that we
Wait
see
a
what we
second.
see.
Theory or model?
Mm-hmm.
Is it necessary to have a theory and model to see what's actually going on?
I wouldn't say it is necessary to see what's going on, but it seems to be necessary, as far as I can understand it, to understand why do I see what I see. If one has the inclination of asking the question beyond the seeing, why do I see what I see?
Why do you see what you see? Why do I feel what I feel?
Yeah, why do I see blue when I see blue? Very simple questions like that,
Yes,
which are the
yes,
ones that
I
I've been
understand,
concerned
I
with
understand.
as well.
Is it, we've all called that book, the book.
Right.
And that's, I accept that. We accept it, all of us. That thing is called a book.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing is called a table.
Mm-hmm.
But
why?
the computer can't call it a table immediately.
But then you can ask yourself the question, why the computer can't and we can? How
Because
are we made different?
We have got the capacity to see anything, 4 legs or 2 legs or 1 leg, a table, instantly.
But what is that capacity?
This is the point.
See, what is the capacity to do it, and then what is the relationship of that capacity to, in other words, what is your capacity, what is the relationship of your capacity to say that's a book to your
That's a
capacity
table.
to say it's a table, or to your capacity to see it's a table?
Well, perhaps I think we should go at the very beginning question you said.
Slowly, you mean.
You introduced the question of observation somehow, and which were different from theorizing about something. And I think perhaps it would be good to start clarifying what do we mean by observing something.
Should we do that, sir?
I felt that he clarified it very well. I felt that I understood what he meant by observing. I don't feel...
What did he end? Well, will you tell me what you think he meant?
All right, I'll try. I think he meant by observing completely bracketing a pre-assumed understanding and going into a mode of not being self-centered, but of being with the object or with the movement without any precondition.
No,
Okay.
but
To the
it-
extent that that is possible, then there is an experience, there is an observation.
So, sir, does that imply to observe there must be no conditioning?
Yes,
well, I think
That's what
I
let's start.
think I understand
Yeah.
that.
we have to go slowly here because somehow you mentioned you see an observation without the me. And
Yes.
it doesn't seem to, for me, so clear that. Because whenever I'm looking at something, there seems to be this separation between my observing at something. There seems to be this division in the brain.
Is that our conditioning?
Yeah, it seems to be one of them. But why is that?
There is a seer and the seen,
Yes.
the observer and the observed, the thinker and the thought, the experiencer and the experienced.
Well, turning it the other way, though, from what Professor Varela was saying, there's a relationship. I'd like to know, what do you think the relationship is between the theory and observation?
Well, this is precisely where I wanted him to move.
I don't think there's any theory.
Oh, well,
All right. Well, I mean, you accept, therefore, that what the endeavor you are proposing would be a radical departure from what has been all of the models of
Yes, sir,
knowledge
yes,
from the
sir,
West.
yes, sir.
Because
If I may be wrong.
no, but this would
but
not have anything.
In observing, why should I have a theory about it?
Mhm. Well, it seems to me that can I try just that
Yes,
for
sir,
one moment?
please.
When I look at that question, it feels that there is something inside me that by itself is inquisitive about why is it? How come this is the way it is? Isn't it interesting that the paper is white and the book is blue? Isn't that interesting? Why isn't it red? It is.
Oh, there's a red book there.
Yes, but why is that red and not this one red?
Because we have called that red.
Yeah, but why have we called that red? What is the process
What's the process?
through which that comes about?
Yes.